Hello, everyone, and welcome to Africa Fire Mission's weekly virtual training session. My name is Mike, and I'm the programs director here at Africa Fire Mission. We're so happy that you took time out of your busy schedules to join us for today's training. Today, we're joined by Brian Andersen. Brian's been working and training with us for a number of years. He's got a wide variety of backgrounds in the fire service, volunteer and career, industrial safety. A really great, knowledgeable resource. He's been working with us since probably 2019 or
Yep.
so. Uh, so we're excited to have Brian back. He's a familiar face for a lot of you guys here during our virtual training. He's also done us some in-person training in both Kenya and Zambia, so glad Brian's here with us today. Before we get started with today's training, let me just touch on a couple of administrative notes. If you stick around for at least 70% of today's training, which is usually about 40 or 45 minutes, you'll receive a certificate of attendance for that training. Your screen name here on Zoom is what we use to generate those certificates. So if you'd like to have something else on that certificate, please go ahead and adjust your name as we carry on here. If your network drops or maybe you get an emergency call, you can't complete the training. There's some options there as well if you keep your eye in the chat. I'll drop a link that'll get you into our Google Drive where you can watch a recording of today's training or any of the other trainings that we've done so far this year. You can answer a few questions to let us know that you completed that whole video, and I'll get you a certificate of attendance for that as well. If you have other people joining you on your screen, that's a great way to save a little bit of data. Uh, Go ahead and drop me an email. I'll be putting that in the chat as well. Let me know who else is joining you on your screen so I can get them their certificate of attendance as well. When we get finished here with the formal portion of our training at the top of the hour, that's where we transition into our tea time. Tea time is a time that you can ask more questions about today's training, or just, if you want to try some networking, chat with some other folks. You can see in the chat we've got people joining from all over Africa and the Middle East. If you'd like to, if you've got the time in the bundles, I invite you to stick around for that tea time when we get to the top of the hour. So, with that sort of information out of the way, I'm going to pass things over to my friend Brian here to get us going with today's training.
Thank you, my friend. Yeah, looking at where everyone's from, we got Zambia, Kenya, Malawi, Jamaica, Saudi Arabia. So quite the experience. If you haven't put your name in the chat, go ahead and put your name in the chat. I really enjoy learning where you guys are from. Um, I really enjoyed the in person classes because I get to learn about you guys more and your families and what makes you smile. So today we got a topic about mental health and suicide awareness. Heavy topic to talk about in the fire service, but we need to talk about it. Um, that's the first thing of solving the issue of suicide and mental health in the fire service is just opening up that dialogue so we know how big the problem actually is. When you want to fix a problem, the first thing you have to do is define the problem, right? So let me share my screen here. So I do enjoy working with Africa Fire Mission. I've been with Africa Fire Mission, like Mike said, since 2019. We've been doing virtual training since COVID. I've been to Kenya, Zambia, work on some additional side projects for them, and I really enjoy it. Overall, my name is Brian Andersen. Been in the fire service since 2004. Currently in the fire service, I volunteer as a training officer. Um, don't get any money for it or anything. I'm a department of 35 members out of one station. My responsibility is to make sure we're ready to go for any type of fire, right? Any type of emergency. But also with that is I have to make sure my firefighters are just okay, right? I need to make sure that they're trained and equipped to go put out some bushfires, but also I need to make sure that they're okay when they come back so they can go to the next fire. Like Mike said, for my full time career, I work in the oil fields in North Dakota as a health and safety coordinator, making sure that the guys, we do a lot of crane and rigging type stuff, a lot of heavy equipment, a lot of tractors and dozers that could run people over. So just making sure that the guys are safe out there, taking their time, not getting hurt that way. So unfortunately, I know quite a few uh, firefighters, law enforcement officers, um, EMTs that have passed away in the line of duty. Um, in the United States, our law enforcement is respected. They're our law enforcement officers in the United States are good people, honest people. They have high integrity. They truly do look out for what is best for the public. I know that's not the case everywhere around the world, but Sergeant Donovan was my friend, and he was one of these one of the best law enforcement officers. High levels of integrity, um, would always give of himself. Just a really good person. When I met him, the first time I met him, I was going too fast. I was driving too fast, of course, and he pulls me over. About 2 days before that, there was a big fire in my town, and he happened to be there. I didn't know him, so going back, I get pulled over by Sergeant Donovan Dante, and he looks at me. And he's like, "Hey, were you at that fire a couple days ago?" I'm like, "Yeah, I was on engine 1961. That was our engine number." And then we just talked about the fire. And at the end of it, he said, "Hey, slow down. Don't do that again." So he gave me a warning. Just a really nice, down to earth uh, officer. About 2 weeks after he pulled me over, I was leaving for basic training in for the United States Army, and I went to my friend's house to say goodbye to him. And Donovan was there. So my friend introduced me to Donovan and said, "Hey, have you met Donovan before? He's a new sheriff here in the county." Like, yeah, we met already. So that's how I got to know Donovan. He had a wife and 5 kids. He was Catholic, went to mass every Sunday. He volunteered on the city council. He was just always giving of himself. And then one day we all got the phone call that he had shot himself. And that's a phone call no one ever expected to get. You can sit back and say, "Oh, I guess there was warning signs," or you know, you can after the fact you can start seeing some of these things like, well, maybe he did need help, but he just wouldn't talk about it. No one knew he was struggling, and if he just would have talked about it and would have opened up and asked for help, we could have got him help. He'd still be alive today. He'd still be a great sheriff and a great father today, but he just never asked anyone and never had that dialogue, that conversation about what he is struggling with. And that's why this is really important. What we do is a dangerous job. Um, I know multiple firefighters that have been killed in line of duty, just because our job is dangerous. Our job is physically demanding. I know a firefighter that was run over at a car accident scene. I know a firefighter that collapsed because of a heart attack. I know firefighters that have died because of cancer. So, what we do is a dangerous job, and we take time to learn about those dangers, but we rarely take time to learn about the dangers of our mental health. And what that's what this class today is about. Our objective today is to make it realize that it's okay to talk about this stuff. Find a church that you can go talk to the pastor about. Find a friend that you can talk to. That's our objective today, is to start having these conversations, because there's a whole bunch of things that can bring us down. Firefighters are very prideful people. You know, if you call 911 and get me, I'm going to come and fix your problem. I have no clue what your problem is, but I'm going to come and fix it. I promise you that. So, and all firefighters are that way. Like, I don't know what the problem is. I'll figure it out when I get there. And, I'm going to make your day better. But we don't want to be the burden on to other people, and that's the part we need to get over, right? And I was that way at one time. I don't want to be a burden to someone. So why would I tell someone all my struggles, because then that burdens them. But now, after being a firefighter for 22 years, I realize if I need help, there are people I can call. I can call Mike whenever I want, and he would talk to me. I could call Craig Duck, our chaplain for Africa Fire Mission, and he'd talk to me. I got local firefighters I could talk to. I got my pastors at church. I got family and friends. So I have a network of people I can just talk to. And sometimes that talking to isn't really talking at all. Um, I got a friend that struggles with mental illness from when he served in the Iraq War. When he's struggling, we'll just go have lunch and we won't talk about the struggle at all. Um, we'll just talk. And just being close to someone sometimes is enough to help start relieving some of that tension that builds up. Because if we don't talk about it and we hang on to our pride, this is what happens. We end up with depression, our marital stress. Firefighters are divorced all the time. Um, Myself being one of them. My first marriage, part of the reason why I got divorced was because the stress of the fire service. PTSD. Who knows what PTSD stands for? Um, you know, I can't. I guess I can't see you guys, but it's post traumatic stress disorder. So what you see a lot of times now is people call it PTS, because it's not a disorder. It's just post traumatic stress. A disorder implies that there's something wrong with you, that you're diseased or something. And that's not the case. It's just post traumatic stress. It is your body reacting to the stress you have. But it also leads to suicide. If if we hang on to this pride and we don't fix these issues, it just keeps going downhill until we can't see a way out. I have another friend. He's a battalion chief in Nebraska, and his daughter, at the age of 21 years old, killed herself. And obviously, that's pretty traumatic. I've never lost a child, luckily, but that'd be a hard thing to handle. Um, and he wasn't handling it that well. As a matter of fact, he went to a mental health retreat and he told himself, I'm going to go to this retreat. If this doesn't work, I'm going to come back and kill myself. And thank God that retreat worked. Now, today, he teaches at these retreats across the country. He teaches online trainings, and he will talk to absolutely anyone that there is help at the end of this. That we can work together and we can get through it and be okay. So, what's first responder stress first aid? The stress first aid model is a self care and a peer network support system. Um, they use it in the military, fire service, and law enforcement. And honestly, we're even seeing it in less stressful jobs, like teaching, which is a stressful job I couldn't do. But we're starting to see it in like teaching and some other uh, roles like that. Nursing, hospital staff use it. We do first aid when we learn about first aid for every part of our body. If your heart stops, what do? You do CPR, right? That's your first aid treatment for your heart. If you break a bone, what do? You go and you splint the bone and you wrap the bone, right? We know how to do first aid for bones. If you're bleeding, what do? Well, there's a whole, you pack the wound and direct pressure, right? So we know first aid on how to deal with bleeding. We never train for first aid on how to deal with our brains. If our brain is having an issue, we do not do first aid training for that. And it's really a big gap in the fire service because every day we have a call, we're experiencing trauma to our brain. There, you might go your whole fire service career and not break a bone, but you're trained on how to fix a broken bone. You might go your whole fire service career and never have to worry about your heart giving out, but we're trained on what to do if your heart gives out. But you will, every day you go to a call, have some sort of trauma to your brain. It might be small, it might be big, but we don't do any first aid treatment for our brains. So, uh, before we move on, so what we need to do, and this is something that Africa has an opportunity for, is you guys need to lead the way on how to take care of your brain, and how to do those first aid treatments. Start researching about, um, you know, there's different type of therapies, yoga, working out, um, counseling, a peer support system. You know, I would challenge all the fire chiefs associations and all the firefighter associations to develop a peer support system. You guys can lead the way on this because the United States is way behind actually. But you're the fresh blank canvas, right? You can just build this up the way you need it. But can stress be a good thing? Absolutely. I have a 3-year-old son that's learning how to potty train right now, or he's going to be 3 here in a couple weeks. He's learning how to potty train. That's a pretty stressful time in his life. He doesn't understand what's going on. And all of us that are parents, we've seen that. We've seen the stress that puts on our kids as they learn how to be potty trained. Um, we see the stress it puts on our kids when they go from breastfeeding to baby food. Um, we see it, all this stress that it puts on our children all the times. But what happens if we as parents don't put any stress on our kid ever? Is that a good thing? No, because they never grow, right? Even eagles, when they build their nest, at the bottom of their nest is a bunch of rocks and hard stuff. And those, as then over top of the rocks, they put some soft grass and whatever. Well, what they start doing as that eagle gets older, the baby eagle gets older, they'll start pulling out that um, that grass and that soft material because the hard rocks put stress on those baby eagles to the point that the baby eagles learn how to fly. So stress is good, but how we cope with it is the issue. Okay. So we have acute versus chronic. Acute is like immediate, short term, short lived type stuff. And the chronic is over time. So acute stress. Okay. If you go to a car accident, um, just you go. We I guess we've all been there, so we can be a little bit more blunt in this class. We should, as firefighters, as humans, we should not know what the inside of someone feels like. But we go to a car accident, and I remember going to a motorcycle accident one time, rolling the patient over and putting my hand straight inside his stomach. There was just nothing there. We shouldn't know what that feels like. That's humans are not designed to do things like that. That's a very acute stress. And we got to watch for warning signs because after that fatality, he passed away, obviously, passed away before we even got there. After that, after that fatality, I didn't drive on that highway for 2 months. And that's the way I get to work. I took the long way to work because there was a blood stain on the highway. And I knew everyone driving over that blood stain they were telling themselves, man, that must have been a big deer because there was blood all over the place. But I knew it wasn't a deer, and I couldn't handle it. So I just drove a different route. Is that acute stress? Absolutely. Because it was tied to a certain event, and eventually I got past it. I learned how to cope with it. Chronic stress is something that happens over time. Maybe you don't go to like one big bad call, but you go to one shift, you might have 4 or 5 calls. The next shift, you have 4 or 5 calls. Um, I know in a lot of Kenya right now, and getting up north, you're having extreme droughts, and that's taking a toll on everything. Um, like it's all these factors building and building and building, and eventually you're going to break if you don't know how to cope with it. So, quick review on acute stress: it activates the fight or flight response. It's how you're going to handle it now, right? And then we have the chronic stress, and that's what's going to build up and what's going to get you in trouble. Look at this graph on the right hand side here. This is a DISC assessment. Um, Now, if we were in person, I can explain this a little bit better, unfortunately. But what this does is it when you answer a bunch of questions, it'll put your personality into one of these 4 quadrants. Almost all firefighters are in this S quadrant. Um, Even tempered, accommodating, patient, humble, tactful, steadfast, right? That's who we are right here. Now, we all have a little bit of traits of each one of these. So, um, like Mike, he's pretty outgoing and enthusiastic almost all the time. So he's probably this S still because he's patient and humble and even tempered. But his dot would be pretty close to this I also. Oops, too far. So what happens is the more stress we have, the more cemented we get in our ways. We can't start thinking about how other people perceive the world. And that makes us have bad decisions, right? Um, they call that the blind spot. Um, the bigger your blind spot gets, the more likely you are to make a decision that makes you feel comfortable, that you're going to be inside of your comfort zone. The problem with that is it limits all the options. When we start limiting the options, then it's like, well, I can't do this because of that. I can't do this because of that. I can't do whatever, you know. Well, then it gets to the point where we feel like we only have one option left, and that's suicide. So we all this stress starts building up, and we can't see the options throughout. We can't see the forest because the tree's in the way type deal. So how is the stress going to impact us? We're going to have trouble sleeping. Um, I have sleep apnea because of the the stress the fire service has caused me, and because of my weight. Um, we're going to have unwanted memories or flashbacks. Um, you, you know, the in Africa, there's a lot of unfortunately babies being thrown into latrines, right? Um, those that's something humans are not designed to see, right? And especially see it near as often as you guys see it. So what happens is you might get a smell randomly as you're walking down the street, and that smell will trigger flashbacks or memories of what happened. Um, or you might hear a motorcycle drive by, and that there's a motorcycle driving by when you're performing that rescue. It's things like that that you don't really connect the two dots, and it might be a month after the incident. It might be 2 or 5 years after the incident. You just never know when those memories and flashbacks are randomly going to pop up. You're gonna, this job and all this stress that we have can cause family and relationship issues. Um, my wife does not understand firefighting at all. Um, she doesn't like how big the fire trucks are. She doesn't like the loud noises. It gives her anxiety being around loud noises like that. So I can't come home and talk to my wife about the things I've done. Um, like I said, I have a group of people, uh, pastors and friends that I can talk to, but I also know I can't talk to my wife because she can't handle that stress. And that put extra stress on our relationship, right? There's a bunch of substance abuse, alcohol, drugs, painkillers, um, in the fire service. What we're worried about is if you go home and you have a bottle of beer every night, Then you start going home and having 4 bottles of beer every night. What caused that difference, right? Of course, suicidal thoughts. That's the big focus today. Is this stress that we have can can cause suicidal thoughts, and it does cause the suicidal thoughts. Um, when those thoughts start happening, is where we start need to take the action. So, 30% of firefighters have PTSD or symptoms of it. 40% of firefighters have sleep disorders, and 80% of those are undiagnosed. 58% of firefighters are binge drinkers. Um, let's see, what other stats do we have here? We are 10 times more likely to contemplate suicide. 3.1% of firefighters have attempted suicide. How many people do we have on the call right now, Mike?
We are at 84.
So you say 84? Couldn't
Yeah.
quite hear you. Okay. Um, so 3.1%. You're talking. There's probably 2 or 3 people on this call who have attempted suicide because of the struggles. And I'm not asking for you guys to tell your stories or anything, but that's just the fact of the matter is. Um, and then on this call, there's likely 25 people or more that have thought about it. 28% of people feel like their life is not worth living, or 28% of firefighters feel like it. So this is the data that we're seeing and that we're collecting. Um, Luckily, there has been a lot of research done lately, so we know that these numbers are pretty accurate. But there is hope. For those of us who are Christians, the Bible says, rejoicing in hope, enduring in troubles, continuing steadfastly in prayer. That's the biggest hope for me, right? As a Christian, is Jesus is my light, and I will get to meet him someday. God put me on this earth for a reason, and it's to serve him. And the best way I know how to serve him is to protect my family and my friends and protect my community, right? If the best way I can do that is by taking care of myself, by being prepared to go to the next call. So, um, in our Bible says that all work that we do for God, right? So by me volunteering my time, by me going to my full time career, I'm doing it for God. So I should do if I'm doing something for God, I should do it right, and I should do it to the best of my abilities, and I should take care of myself. So I know we have a lot of people on here that probably aren't Christians. Read your books and see what it says. There is hope out there. When you study every religion, it, there's uh, a lot of common things in all of our books. So faith is one of the best things we can do for our stress. Like I said, give all our anxiety to God. The Bible tells us to do that. And be in reality. This is the next best thing we can do for ourselves. Check in on yourself and figure out where you are and where you want to be. And understand that it's not going to be the perfectly straight line like you see up on the top there. If you're struggling with mental health and you're trying to overcome mental health issues, your journey is going to be like that bottom line. You're going to have sharp ups, sharp downs. It's going to be a chaotic journey. One day you're going to feel like, hey, I got this. And the next day you're going to feel like, I don't want to talk to anyone. I just want to lay in bed all day. And that's okay. But overall, your mental health will progress as you talk about it, as you seek counseling, as you work out, do those things that are important to you, take time with your family. You'll see your mental health improve over time. It won't be a perfect line, but it will be improving. Also, control the controllables. Finances are a huge factor in firefighter suicide. And I know it seems crazy that an American would be telling Africans that, hey, finances are an issue, right? But they are. Human behavior is you want more and more and more. You know, there's a lot of American firefighters that have killed themselves because finances. Luckily, there is a bunch of resources online to help you understand how to manage finances. And those basic principles of managing finances work no matter how much money you make. You you can you can be a firefighter in Africa or you can be an NFL player and these financial principles will work. They're hard, I understand, because the scarcity or lack of resources, but it can be controlled. Also, well, before we move on to finances, because that is a big one. That finances are another reason why I got divorced. I and I understand that I make more than you guys. Like right, I'm not trying to minimize what burden you're going through, but if you learn to live on or live on what you make, don't go into a bunch of debt. Those type of principles, you can control your finances. Um, Also, your physical and mental health is very important. Um, you know, a great stress reliever is going and working out. I like to lift weights. So I'll go to the gym and lift a bunch of weights for an hour or whatever. And then I sit in the sauna. Saunas have a lot of a lot of data behind them saying that they're good for your physical and mental health. Um, there's also a bunch of non-traditional medicines, right, that could help, like red light therapy, uh, acupuncture. It's not like you just have to go take pills to be healthy. There's lots of things you can do outside of it. So for me, my mental health, I like to go lift weights and then go sit in a sauna, and it feels amazing to me. And by controlling what you can control, it helps build confidence. It's because when you start feeling like you're in control of something, then you can control something else, right? If you can learn how to control your finances, then you can learn how to control your physical health. Then you can learn how to control your mental health, right? And you starts building off each other. Like, hey, I can do this. I can do hard things, right? So by doing all this, you start to lessen that stress, and then the thoughts of suicides become less and less also. So for me, this is like one of the biggest slides on actually how to prevent firefighter suicide is learning how to control just one part of your life. When you figure out how to control one part of your life, start controlling the next part of your life, and then start controlling the next. And there's a bunch of data on the internet to help you and to motivate you. There's a lot of good books out there on how to, depending on what you want to learn. There's a lot of good books out there on how to best do it. So there's help everywhere. Also promote a sense of safety. If you are finding your if you're finding yourself in that hard place, find the people and places that make you feel safe, right? When you feel unsafe, when you're having those thoughts of suicide, what we need to do is start focusing on something near you. You can even just focus on your breath. You know, what they say is you breathe in for 5 seconds, hold it for 5 seconds, breathe out for 5 seconds. So I'll breathe in and then breathe out. And by focusing on your breath, it starts calming your body. If you're feeling unsafe and you're having thoughts of suicide, go for a walk, start working out, right? Do what works for you. Realize no one is perfect. Everyone has strengths. Everyone has their vulnerabilities also. But also realize that everyone is valuable. Every person on this earth is valuable. God put us all here for a reason, and we need to take care of ourselves so we can do whatever God put us on this earth to do. So, here's some ideas on how you can maintain the calm environment. Work on their breathing. Admit your feelings. Like we have already discussed, the first thing you have to do to fix a problem is to define what the problem actually is. Challenge your thoughts. When you're starting having the thoughts of suicide, you go to like these extremes. Like, no one would miss me when I'm gone. No one would even notice I'm gone. No one loves me. All right. And when we have these extreme thoughts, we know it's just not true. But in that moment, they feel true. So challenge those thoughts. If you start thinking, no one loves me, well, actually, Jesus loves me, and Brian from North Dakota loves me, and you start saying, well, no one will miss me. Well, my my cousin will miss me. Start challenging those thoughts when they come. Visualize yourself as a calm place. Just you can sit down, breathe, and visualize just being calm. Change your focus. If you start having thoughts of suicide, like I said, just start getting those feelings. Just go for a walk. And as you're going for a walk, you just pick something, count how many pieces of trash are on the roadway, or count how many birds you see or something. Just change your thought. Have a centering object or person. Kids do this, babies do this. They have a toy that when they feel stressed, they grab this toy and it brings them comfort. Why do we not do this as adults? Prioritize sleep. Embrace the outdoors. Vitamin D. There's a whole bunch of data where being outside is a much better environment than being cooped up inside. explore cost saving strategies for medications. That's mainly a United States things because we have to medicate for everything. Just in general, explore cost saving strategies. Eat healthy. Limit your alcohol. Have a social support network like we've talked about. You know, have a pastor, have family and friends, have other firefighters that you can talk to. And if your agency has resources, make sure you have access to them. So, my work, I have mental health counselors I can call. My fire department, I have mental health counselors I can call. Um, my church, I have mental health counselors I can call. So, there's a whole bunch of resources provided to me. Um, and if you're a fire chief or the fire chiefs associations stuff, this is your responsibility to set these resources up to make sure your firefighters have somewhere they can go if they start feeling suicidal. Promote hope. Make sure you're coordinating check-ins with your counselors. There's multiple types of counseling. You can be counseled as a fire department. You can be counseled like as an engine company. You can do single counseling, couples counseling for you and your wife, or yourself and your husband. Right? There's a whole bunch of different type of counseling, and they all give us this hope that we are going to be okay. And connect with others. A big thing we do to help us get through those down days, right? Um, do something with others and not something for others. This is one that firefighters struggle with. We always want to be doing something for someone, but every now and then, just go out with your friend and go for a walk around the neighborhood, or go to a restaurant to eat, or go do whatever, go play some football, right? Do something with people. Here are some resources uh, and some studies. This Mike post all these uh, classes, and it's in the chat that probably already on where you can come find this. So I come back to this page and look at these resources. Um, and if you're not on our email list, you can scan this QR code here. Um, Visit our website, africafiremission.org, or email info@africafiremission.org if you want some more information. We are here to help you, right? To encourage you, to give you hope. Like that's why we do what we do, is to help you. So take advantage of the resources we have. With that being said, any questions?
All right, good information there, Brian. And a tough topic to talk about. Really, commend you for being able to talk about that and sort of demonstrate what we all need to be doing. With that being said, we're gonna open the floor up. If anybody's got any questions, comments, or anything like that, you can use the raise hand feature. You can drop a question or a comment in the chat. Or you can go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
How about this? Does anyone has anyone been impacted by suicide? Is there someone? Is there any firefighters that we know?
We've got
Um,
a question in the chat for you
yeah.
there. A couple popping up now. First one, are there any sort of telltale signs of suicidal behavior that you can identify from your colleagues?
Yes and no. You have to use a little bit more critical thinking. Um, I don't drink alcohol. It smells bad to me. So I just don't drink it. If Mike sees me drinking alcohol and I start having a couple bottles of alcohol, that's something different, right? If Mike drinks a couple bottles of alcohol, I'm not worried about it. So the sign that we're looking for is that something is just different, out of character, right? That's what you need to be looking for, which implies that you know what they're like beforehand, right? So when you're at the fire station, you have to be getting to know your brothers and sisters. Start talking to them, making friends with them, because then you can start identifying when they changed. Um, I was in the army for 6 years, fire department for 22 years. Both have a bunch of PTSD type symptoms. I have a friend. He started giving away all his tools a few months ago because he likes to take rocks and polish rocks and make them shiny, and he started giving them away. Well, there was like seven of us call him in one day saying, "What are you doing?" That's a huge sign that it's out of the ordinary or out of the ordinary for you. Um, and this was just last month that we this all happened. It's like, hey, Dan, this is not okay. What's going on? And after we all talked to him and um, worked with him, he's getting better. He never admitted that he was thinking about killing himself, but he was definitely going down. He was going downhill, and then he gets into that point where he sees the only way out is to kill yourself. So look for something that's different. You said we had another question.
Yeah, yeah, no, it was a good answer there. That big thing, those changes in behavior, those people withdrawing from the activities that you're doing, um, really good. Um, Another question, how do unwanted memories or flashbacks affect our productivity?
That's a good question. Um, the problem with the unwanted memories and flashbacks is they're not really predictable. Um, they're not predictable where or when they're going to happen, right? Um, we just have to learn how to cope with them. And at some point, we don't worry about productivity. We just worry about making sure we take care of ourselves. Um, Usually, the best thing we can do in the fire service to get through those flashbacks and through those memories is to go to firefighter training, to be around our network of firefighters, right? Even in the military, when soldiers are on the frontline combat and they start having their PTSD, they'll take them off the front lines for a while, but then send them back to the front lines because the best thing they can do is to be there with the people they know. It's a weird comfort zone for soldiers. Um, so overall, just just be aware that the flashbacks and memories are going to happen, and when they happen, don't worry about productivity necessarily. Just tell your fire chief, hey, I need a couple minutes to go take a breather. Go out and do a walk or two, a lap around the fire station, and take a breather. That's okay.
Uh, is there any distinction between stress and depression?
Yes, stress is a factor. Um, it's like one of the ingredients. that cause the depression. Um, there might be several things that cause the depression, and stress is just one of those ingredient type things. Um, so like depression is what you're going to be clinically medically diagnosed with. You're not going to be diagnosed with stress. Stress is just how we end up to depression.
And stress comes in a lot of different forms, and stress can actually be a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes stress is what helps us to perform our duties. You know, when you get that sort of surge of adrenaline, you know, when you're rolling up on a big fire, or you know, you you know, if you're an EMT, you see that sort of um, those bigger wounds, right? And it sort of gets your heart pumping and gets you um, you know, that can be good stress. We've got good stress, and we've got bad stress. But depression's its own sort of separate piece, right? Yeah.
Patrick, what do you got going on?
Hi Tim.
Echo.
Mine is just why am I having echo?
Just try turning your volume down for a minute while you talk. That should fix it.
Okay. I'm still having echo. What's happening?
Uh,
Thanks for the comment, Shadrach. Appreciate that.
another question there. What are some of the suicidal thoughts that one can have in mind?
It okay. Mostly what I've experienced, uh, just with being around a bunch of veterans and firefighters, is people start feeling worthless. Like, like I said, it'd be thoughts of no one would even notice I'm gone. No one would miss me when I'm gone. Um, I'm just a burden to someone. I'm a burden to Mike because I told my depression to Mike. Or it's embarrassment where it's like, well, I told Mike that I'm struggling mentally, so now I have to kill myself because I'm embarrassed by it. Those are the type of things that I start seeing um, more more often. There was one call I had. I got called to this gentleman's house that was having a diabetic issue, and we get there with the ambulance, and the son had called it in, and um, we're talking to the dad, and the dad asking dad, "Hey, what's going on?" And dad says, "I don't know. I feel fine, but my son says I need to leave." And he says I need to get to the hospital. So we start driving away from the house, and we get, I don't know, not even 5 minutes down the road, we still had firefighters in the house, and the son went upstairs and killed himself. Um, the son just felt like he was burdening his dad, um, and and that he would be better. His dad would be better off without him. And that's what he wrote in a note. That's how we know this. So a lot of the stuff I've seen is you don't want firefighters don't want to be a burden to other people. We feel that there's no way out or no one we can talk to.
All right, we got a couple more questions and things here, but we're up against our time. So let me wrap up the formal portion of our training here with a big thank you to Brian. This is a tough topic to talk about. I'm glad you came and are so open to talk to us and show us some behavior that we can model as well. I also want to thank all of you guys for using your time, using your bundles to be able to join us here. We don't take that for granted. If you find that there's other people that you think might benefit from our training, please feel free to share the registration link. I encourage you all to visit our webpage at www.africafiremission.org. There's a resources tab there that's got all sorts of free resources, training materials, all sorts of good stuff for you guys. Uh, so I encourage you to, if you have the time, to go check that out as well. So with that, I'm going to wrap up the formal portion of our training. Please stick around as we continue discussion into our tea time, and I hope to see you all again next week.